Friday update. So started off this morning by blasting Freon in my face, so that was awesome. I was moving this hose and didn't remember that we actually didn't evacuate the AC, so when I pulled it off, that was a straight shot to the face. Luckily, I got an eye wash station out and everything was good, so feeling better now. But then went ahead and got back to work. So as you see, we were able to go ahead and get the turbo installed. I bought some heat wrap because of how close the fan is going to be to the manifold. This is actually just kind of sitting here right now. I got to get it strapped together and installed, but just so that way you could see, not a lot of room in there, but it does all fit. So this was 25 foot of 1 inch wrap, and it was not enough. I was able to get 2 of the manifolds, I guess you want to call it, wrapped in there. So I got another 50 feet coming, so that way I can wrap the other 2 as well as the wastegate, and then the collector I would like to wrap a little bit more. And then I think I'm gonna go a little extra thickness on this side just because of it is being close to the fan. Our biggest fear is that it's gonna burn out the motor faster getting so hot, but we'll figure it out. I mean, it's a $20 fan, we'll see what happens. Did get the radiator installed so that we can kind of see what the clearance and everything looks like there. The stock hoses for the car actually do work. I do think going forward, you can see I got like the extra underneath. I might trim it so that way it brings it down a little bit better to the OEM location of the CRV, this little clamp right here. But we're gonna have the intercooler piping coming up and into the intake, of course, so I wanna see how that kind of flows first, and then I'll trim the radiator hose. And then I gotta figure out, bring my air filter from down there up into this void, so that way it's getting cooler air than being right there in the heat factory. So got the fuel lines all put together, kind of bit myself. I cut too much off of the hose. It's a Parker push lock hose. So for those style fittings, I wish I would have measured a little bit better before I cut, but that's what you get. The return line went on there, so actually because of how I cut it shorter, this had a little bit more room to go down and behind the intake. And then if you remember in the last video, I was talking about the cruise control line not having a port. So I was able to pull the fittings out of the other one, and I found this little plastic, basically it was a plug that was brought with another car part, so that way it wouldn't leak during shipping, and it fit, and I was able to put the fitting in there. So since it's going to be under pressure, however, and it's going to try to push this up and out, I mean, it's in there pretty good, other than the fact that that fitting, is just in there. I might figure out a way to use some kind of a glue, like super glue, to try to hold it in there a little bit better, or try to figure out a bracket system and use the old bracket mounts for the purge solenoid that was originally in here. So, I'm sure I'm gonna have to mess with it, but we'll figure that out. Regulator is installed, and then what I did is, since I removed the charcoal canister, I went ahead and I cut it, and then I just used the stock location. And this is a Dorman catch can, so it's not like super fancy, but it does the job, and it was pretty affordable. And then I just riveted the piece on so that way it would hold it. And then that way I just didn't have to drill any more holes, and it just goes right on in there and sits like it was originally to fit there. What's nice about it is that I'll be able to reach it when I'm doing oil changes to be able to get underneath it in order to drain it. So I still need to route the hoses. I need to make another run to Hathaway Performance. It was so funny. So Mike and another gentleman were in there, and they're like, "Oh, you're not gonna buy all the fittings that you need in one swoop. You'll be back." And I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure we got it laid out." Yeah, that's not true. So I've already been back twice. or the first time, and then I went back a second time, and now I'm gonna have to go back a third time. So I'll get a fitting because this one was a straight out, a barb fitting straight out, and so I don't want to make that hard turn. I'll go ahead and get a A&N fitting and then a 90, and then that way I can come up and then over to the valve cover. So I'll come out of here, I'll come out of here, and then basically it will go into a T and then run straight down in there to the catch can. So as far as the oil return, I was completely wrong on what I needed. So I had a straight and a 45, and I actually need to do two 90s. So I will be getting two 90s, number 10 and fittings. And then I think we're pretty close. So once I actually have those fittings, I went ahead and I ran the oil feed line. So we'll be able to put oil in there and then do a test start. I was hoping to do that today, but that just did not happen. So stay tuned.